You may be seated. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Another dreary day. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. The attorneys and I have been making every effort to take care of issues that need to be taken care of out of your presence we start at 8:15 in the morning. So I apologize for the short delay. Mr. Bull, further evidence or testimony on behalf of the state?
Your Honor, the state of Iowa calls Bill Carter.
Sure, if I can get you to come right up here, please. If I can get you to raise your right hand for me, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please be seated. Mr. Carter, I'm going to ask you to sit up and speak right into that microphone so everyone can hear you. Counsel.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could you introduce yourself to the jury? Tell us who you are.
My name is Bill G. Carter. That's C-A-R-T-E-R.
Bill, how old are you?
I just turned 73.
Who was your wife?
My wife was Shirley Dean Carter.
And Bill, can you tell me how old was Shirley when she died?
Shirley was 68.
Bill, where do you live?
I live at 132 Perry Street, Lacona.
Is that located in Marion County, Iowa?
Yes, it is in Marion County.
Bill, how long have you lived at that residence?
50 years.
Bill, when did you first meet Shirley Carter?
We met in high school. I took her to the homecoming dance and we dated after that.
And did you marry Shirley?
Yes.
Were you still in school at the time?
Yes, I was 17 and she was 16.
Did you graduate high school?
Yes.
Did Shirley?
No.
How come?
She had a little one to take care of.
And who
Our
was
daughter, Jana, our first daughter.
How many children in total do you have?
We had 3. We have 3. The oldest is Jana Lee. The second is Billy Dean. And then my youngest son is Jason Jean.
Do you see Jason in the courtroom today?
Yes.
What is he wearing?
He's wearing a suit.
Bill, what home were you living in when Jason was still living in your home?
Where we're at today.
Did Jason ever live in any other home?
No.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Bill, I'm going to show you what's already been admitted as Exhibit 9. Do you recognize this photo?
I do.
What is it?
That is a overhead photo of my farm.
And Bill, we've had an opportunity to look at this with the jury before, but I'm wondering, could you just tell us where things are oriented on the map? What I mean by that is, where is your home located?
This is our house, right here.
Okay, the front door points what direction?
The front door is right here on the north.
And Bill, on the morning of June 19, 2015, did you and Shirley go somewhere?
Yes.
Where did you go?
We went over to Milo. It's a small town about 7 miles, 6, 7 miles west of us, and we always went there for coffee.
Bill, we will get to that. What I'd like to know just right now is if you were to come out of your driveway, would you be turning left or turning right to go to Milo?
I'd be turning left.
And if you were headed to go get to Melcher, would you be turning left out of the driveway or would you be turning right out of the driveway?
I'd be turning right.
Bill, do you have any water on your property?
Yes, we have ponds.
Okay. So, Bill, as we look at Exhibit 9, is all of the farmland surrounding your home, is that your land?
Yes.
Is there any buildings that existed in 2015 that do not exist today as represented by this picture?
Yes.
Okay. What would have existed in 2015 that is not on this photo?
There was a pole barn, a 40 by 60 cattle pole barn that sat right here. It got taken down in a windstorm in 2015.
So this pole barn, as it's related to your home, what direction would the pole barn have been?
North and a little bit east.
So north and east as if headed towards Knoxville?
North and east as if headed towards Pleasantville.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, Bill, I want to show you another photograph. Your Honor, may the record reflect that I am handing the witness exhibit 144A. Sir, I'm handing you 144A. Do you recognize what that is?
Well, no, I don't, Ed. I'm having a hard time finding the home place.
Okay, so let me ask you, and that's fine, Bill. Do you recognize this general road structure as road structure that leads to your home?
Yes. Yes.
So if we look at this map and we have a road headed north and south, what road would that be?
That would be S45.
And where does that connect? What two towns does S45 connect?
S45 connects Melcher and Pleasantville.
And then if you were to turn off S45, what road would you originally be turning onto, if you know?
I'm not familiar with the streets. I never have been, but I do know I live on Perry Street.
Okay. Now, Bill, as you look at Perry Street, is there a curve on Perry Street that allows you to recognize where Perry Street is?
Yes.
Okay. And where would that curve be?
Okay. Where's the water tower?
And let me turn it around for a second so everyone else can see what you're doing.
Okay.
Okay.
This is the curve that turns onto Perry Street,
Okay.
and this is Perry.
And who lives near that curve?
The Jansen family.
Okay. And then as you look at based on where that curve is and where Jansen is, as you look across, is the bottom street on this map Perry Street?
Yes.
Okay. And now, as you look at this map, do you see, and let me show you again, Bill, as it's shown in Exhibit 9, do you see the water feature also represented on that aerial map?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Bill, can you tell me where on that map you believe your home is, if you know?
It's right here.
Okay. Bill, if you are certain that's where your home is, I'm handing you a yellow dot or a yellow sticker. Can you place that sticker where you believe your home is? Sir, Your Honor, state offers 144A.
No objection.
I believe it is in evidence, Mr. Bull.
Your Honor, I believe I referenced it and I had Mr. Hope put a sticker on it, but I don't believe I ever formally offered it because I was going to have Mr. Carter use it.
I think you might be right. Exhibit 144A is admitted.
What do you do for a living?
I am a farmer, always have been a farmer. I started farming when I was 17 years old.
Bill, during your career, what have you farmed?
Well, we started out renting an 80 when I was 17. Then we gradually rented more ground, and then I bought my first farm in 1969, 200 acres. And then I kept adding to that to where we now own approximately 780 acres.
Bill, what types of things have you farmed?
Well, we farm row crops, corn and beans, a lot of hay, a lot of alfalfa and clover and other forms of hay, because we always had 50 to 60 head of Angus cows. And then we also raised hogs.
When did the hogs and the cows stop being on your property, for the most part?
For the most part, about 1990.
Since then, have you been mostly a crop farmer?
Yes, row crop and hay.
In the summer of 2015, what were you farming?
We were farming approximately just under 1,000 acres.
Row crop?
Mostly row crop, but a lot of hay too.
Bill, you told us a little bit about when you purchased your first farm. Was the purchase of that first farm, at least in part, some of the property and the homestead depicted in the exhibits that we showed?
It is that property. That's the house we moved into in 1969.
Bill, do you owe any money on your home?
No,
Do you owe any money on your land?
no.
Bill, approximately how much is your land worth?
At the time of Shirley's death, they thought it was worth somewhere around $3.5 to $4 million.
How do you, Bill, generally in the farm world, how do you come up with that number?
Every farm has what they call a CSR number.
What's
That's-
CSR mean?
That's corn suitability rating. And The average CSR on my farm ground is right around 70.
So how does CSR play into the value of the property?
Well, they have a formula where if you have 70 CSR, your ground should be worth $7,000 an acre for row crop.
Bill, did your home have air conditioning in it?
Yes,
Did it always have air conditioning in it?
it always had air,
Window units or central air?
central air.
Bill, are there any heating and cooling vents located in the kitchen of your home?
Yes, one.
Where is it located at?
It's located just next to the back door, and it is right along our cabinets, right along the bread drawer in Shirley's cabinets.
Bill, what was the temperature in your home kept at?
I kept it at 71, she kept it at 73.
Bill, did your home have a home phone line?
Yes,
What was your phone number?
947-6113.
What area code?
Originally 515, but then they changed it to 641.
Your Honor, State offers States Exhibit 36.
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 36 is admitted.
Bill, I'm going to show you page 3 of these phone records. Do you see the top line on page 3 of this exhibit?
Yes,
Bill, do you see on page 2, do you see where it tells you kind of the categories of the columns that exist?
yes.
Okay. So could you tell us, starting across that top line,
This top line here.
yes, sir, could you tell us, looking at the columns, what is the connect date on that item?
June 19th, 2015.
Can you tell us what the next column descriptor is going across that top line?
Terminating number
What is the terminating number?
515-225-9242.
And what was the originating number?
The originating number was 641-947-6113.
Is that your home phone number?
Yes,
And what time, if we didn't already say, Bill, was that phone call to that number made?
8:44.54 a.m.
Bill, at some point in the past, did you authorize someone to come into your home and take a video of your home?
Yes,
Now, Bill, that was just recently, wasn't it?
yes it was.
So let's take a step back for a moment. Is your home look exactly the same as it did in June of 2015?
Yes,
And by that, do you mean, have you changed any walls?
No.
Have you expanded any rooms?
No.
So is the physical structure of your home the same?
Yes, exactly.
Now, may furniture be in a different place than it was in 2015?
The furniture's in the same place.
Bill, are there new furniture in the home?
We had new countertops put in after Shirley's death, and a new recliner to replace the old recliner she sat in.
Bill, is there new flooring in the kitchen?
Yes.
Is there a new refrigerator?
Yes.
In your bedroom? Did the DCI take anything from your bedroom that you needed to replace?
Yes, they took the dresser drawers, most of the dresser drawers out of our bedroom dresser.
And were you able to just go out and replace the drawers of the dresser?
No.
How come?
Well, it's an old dresser with curved drawers. It was an antique that Shirley refinished, and you can't find those kind of drawers, so I bought another dresser for my own stuff.
In the spare bedroom, is the bed in the exact same place as it was in June of 2015?
No, it's perpendicular to the south wall where it used to. Shirley had it to where it came out at an angle into the from the southwest to the northeast.
Bill, as it relates to the basement, are you saying that every odd and end that was down there in 2015 was still down there when this video was taken?
No, not everything was down there.
But from a standpoint of the general layout of your home,
Yes, it was. The general layout of the basement was exactly the same.
Your Honor, I don't believe there's any objections to the state offers Exhibit 16.
No objection.
Exhibit 16 is admitted.
Permission to publish 16 to the jury.
You may.
So I'm going to pause the video right here for a moment. What would have been on June 19th, 2015? Was there some other item in this room that is not depicted in this video?
Yes,
What was that?
it was a gun safe.
Bill, I want to talk about a couple things in your basement. Bill, can you tell me, Your Honor, permission to approach the screen?
You may.
Bill, if you need to stand, you can certainly do so. Up here, we see a 2x4 and a metal, what looks like a metal beam. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. What is that?
That, we had the basement walls, Midwest basement came in and straightened up the walls on the north and the west side of the house.
Did you and Shirley have problems with your home settling?
Yes, we did.
And did that cause any issues with the way the windows that we see in this photo, the egress window, how it appears from the outside of the house?
Yes.
Can you explain that?
Well, when the basement settled, the home settled, we couldn't get the egress windows to completely close. They still protrude out just a little bit, but they're tight. They insects and bugs or rodents couldn't get in.
Did you have any water problems with those windows?
No.
So if the jury looks at any photo of the outside of your house, if it looks like the window is slanted a little bit, is it open in any way?
No, it is not.
Now, Bill, as we look at the basement, it appears pretty dark. Is it?
It is dark. Yes.
Is this mirroring the conditions if you went downstairs in the early or late morning or early afternoon, what that basement would look like?
Yes.
Bill, on June 19th of 2015, how many vehicles did Shirley drive?
Well, we had 4 vehicles, but Shirley drove the 3. Dodge pickup, a Buick LaCrosse, and then sometimes she drove my Ford Ranger.
What's the 4th vehicle that your family owned?
It's a Chevrolet, 3/4 ton pickup, and that's what I drove most of the time.
What was Shirley's primary vehicle that she drove?
The Dodge Dakota.
And if the two of you were taking a trip somewhere, what would you normally ride in?
The Buick LaCrosse.
Was there a particular place that Shirley parked her Dakota pickup?
Yes, she parked it pretty much straight south and west of the car garage, or straight south of my pickup, which I always park next to a huge Chinese elm.
You're talking about a tree in your yard?
Yes.
Bill, in June of 2015, were you still a full-time farmer?
Yes, I was.
Were you starting to make the decision of whether or not to slow down a little?
Yes, I had been for a few years.
Did Shirley want to slow down?
No.
How many acres in 2015 were you farming?
Just under 1,000.
How was your farming relationship with your with your land or with the other land that isn't part of the land you own?
I just rent one other farm, and that's Pat Myers's farm, which is just about a mile and a half south of Pleasantville. And I had rented that for many years.
And what is your relationship with Pat Myers?
He's a good, close friend, and we farm that farm 50-50.
Okay, so I want to take a step back, Bill. We've heard at least some part about cash renting, and we've talked about, or at least this jury has heard cash renting. They've also heard owning your own land. What's a 50-50 split mean?
Pat likes to still maintain some control and be part of the farming operations. So I put the crop in, and I take the crop out, and he has bin storage for all the crop. And then for me doing that, I get 50% of the crop, and he gets 50%, and we split the expenses 50-50. It's an old-fashioned way that they used to do years ago. Most rentals were 50-50. Cash rent has come on in the last 20-25 years.
Bill, in the summer of 2015, how would you describe the division of labor in your home between Shirley and you?
Well, I didn't do much in the house. I sometimes vacuumed, but very seldom. She did 90% of the work in the house. Washing, clothes, dishes. She did 90% of it.
What about out in the fields? Was it 90% you and 10% her?
No. It was 50-50. She run the equipment for me, got ground ready, and then I planted it. And she always stayed ahead of me and did a perfect job.
Did Shirley own her own equipment?
We went and watched a new 8330 John Deere being built in Waterloo, and that tractor was built for her. She got to put a gold key in and drive it off the line, and then they had her sign her name under the hood, and she was very proud of it.
Bill, when you say things like she was up ahead of you, what do you mean by that?
I didn't have to tell Shirley what to do. She would take the vertical till on the 8330 and she'd start working ground and get it ready for me. And I just would get my seed and follow her, plant her. She knew what fields we had. She knew how many acres were in each field.
Did she help you take the crop out of the ground?
Oh, yes. She hauled all the grain in to the bins. Sometimes we hired help, but most of the time she did it herself.
Bill, did any of your children start to follow in your footsteps as being a farmer themselves?
Yes, Jason did.
And did you ever provide financial support to Jason's farming operations.
Yes, I did.
Tell us about that.
When he wanted to start farming, I let him take my 4020.
What is that?
That's a tractor I'd owned for years. And traded in on a newer, bigger tractor, a 4430, and that's the first help that I did financially. I rented a farm for him off of Paul Creekow, and that was the first farm he rented. And then gradually, I started turning over farms that I rented. I would ask the landlords if it was okay if he could farm it, and he was a good farmer, and there was no problem with that. So he rented about 5 farms that I rented at one time.
Bill, did Jason ever come to you to ask for assistance in purchasing farm equipment?
Not in purchasing farm equipment.
What about in purchasing vehicles for the use of farming?
Oh, I loaned him or gave him the money to buy his first semi. And I paid half of a straight truck that we bought together. There was other equipment that we shared or he used of mine.
What was the most recent, prior to Shirley's death, arrangement you had with Jason concerning farm equipment?
I had bought a new 6150R John Deere tractor to put on a new Hardy sprayer that I had bought, and the arrangement was that I paid for the tractor and sprayer, and Jason would spray my crops, and then in turn he could use them to spray his crops.
When was the sprayer purchased?
December of 14.
When did you take delivery of that sprayer?
December of 14.
Your Honor, I'm not certain if anyone else is hearing it, but is there a high-pitched squeal? I don't know the right term. I'm just wondering if we could take maybe a brief recess to figure out whatever the technical issues are.
Perhaps Lori can check on that as we continue. Is it interfering with anybody's ability to hear? Okay. I can't hear it, Mr. Bull.
I think you said you took delivery of the sprayer in December. When did you also mentioned you'd purchased a tractor at the same time. When did you get the tractor?
Purchased that in spring of 15, early spring of 15.
Do you recall when you took delivery of that item?
It had to be sometime in March.
About this same time of year?
Yeah.
Bill, what was the name of your business?
Carter Farms, but that's what was on my semi, Carter Farms. But I really didn't go by a business name. I didn't have a corporation or an LLC. It was just Shirley and Bill Carter.
Did Jason have a business name?
Yes.
Was it Carter Farms?
Well, he had Carter Farms on his semi for a long time and went by that, and then he changed it to Broadview Farms.
What, when you say the arrangement was he had to spray your farmland before he could spray his, was that a gentleman's agreement?
He didn't have to spray mine before his.
Okay.
It was just that he spray mine, and in return for spraying mine, he could spray his. And it didn't have to be in that consecutive order.
Bill, did Jason's farming operation own any land?
No, other than where his acreage was, where his house sat.
Bill, in your experience, is it harder to make a profit if you're cash renting land versus if it's your own land?
Yes.
And why is that?
Well, if you own the land, you don't have, you have an investment in it, but it's paid for. And therefore, what you really look at when you put your crop in is the cost of seed, fertilizer, chemicals, labor, interest on machinery, interest at the bank, whereas on top of all of that, you may have to pay $200 to $250 to $280 cash rent if you're cash renting it. Whereas if you own it, you don't have that expense.
Bill, did you ever have a conversation with Jason about Jason acquiring his own land?
Yes, Jason asked me in 14, I believe it was in the winter of 14, he said, "Dad, why don't I own any ground? Why don't I have any ground?" And I said, "Well, Jason, you like to put your money into nice equipment, really good equipment. Whereas the neighbor boy over here that lives just west of me, he was buying ground, but he was running older equipment that was a lot cheaper." And that's how I tried to explain it to him.
Did you offer at that time to give Jason any land?
No. No.
Did you offer to sell him land?
Yes, I did. I said, "Jason, I would sell you the South 80. It was the last piece of ground I purchased. It was a good 80, but it was surrounded by timber. And the deer, well, Jason said, "Dad, I don't want that. The deer eat all the crop around the outside." And Shirley stood up.
Objection, Your Honor. Although the question didn't call for it, I believe that the defendant's about, or the witness is about to testify to hearsay.
Response.
I beg pardon?
May I have a response?
You may.
It's a state of mind exception, Your Honor. It's a spontaneous response after hearing a conversation as to her thoughts on the matter.
Your Honor, I don't think it's a present sense impression. It's just hearsay.
I think based on the hearsay objection and Rule 403, the objection is sustained. Why don't you ask another question?
Bill, what were you thinking when Jason said he didn't want that land?
I thought that that showed selfishness
Why?
because I farmed the land. The deer ate my corn around the edges. That's a problem we have in southern Iowa. And I just thought it showed that he was being selfish in not even considering buying that because of the deer problem.
Bill, was 2015 a good year to be a farmer?
It was a mediocre year.
Was 2014 a better year to be a farmer?
Yes.
Was 2013 a great year to be a farmer?
Yes.
Why?
Well, in 2012, the Eastern Corn Belt, which was Indiana, Ohio, and parts of Illinois, had a bad drought, a really bad drought. And we had a mediocre crop, 160, 170 bushel corn, 45 bushel beans. So the value of corn and beans almost doubled in a year's time. In 2012, late 2012, and in 2013, you could get $6 up to $7 and some cents a bushel for corn. And I sold beans that year for $18 and 70 some cents a bushel, which was unheard of. I had never sold grain for that before.
So if you were looking at making a decision of whether or not you wanted to be a full-time farmer, were those numbers, if you were looking at 2012 and 2013, realistic of what you were going to get moving forward?
No.
Since that time, has there been somewhat of a decline in the commodities values?
By or more than half. Yeah, corn right now is at the local level is somewhere around 340, 350 a bushel, and soybeans are right around 820 to 830. The last that I heard the markets.
Now, Bill, just so we clarify, and sometimes you have said during our conversation this morning, you know, that's an 80. What do you mean when you say that's an 80?
Well, we farmers tend to think in terms of '40s, '80s, 160s, 320, 640 acres is a section. So it's just something that is common among farmers to say, you know, the South 80 or the North 80.
So just to clarify, if you say 80, you're referring to 80 acres.
Correct.
Bill, we talked a little bit ago about the fact that Shirley was out there in the fields working with you just as much as you were as a farmer.
Yes.
In your mind, was Shirley a farm wife or a farmer?
She was a farmer and proud of it.
Bill, did you make decisions about your farming operation without talking to your wife?
No. I did in the early years. But once our children were grown and she became a full part of the operation, I would discuss things like purchase some land or buying a new piece of equipment. I would always discuss it with Shirley.
Bill, how would you describe, what term would you use to describe Shirley's role in Carter Farms?
She was a full partner.
Did you and her ever disagree about you stepping aside and turning over land to Jason?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor. Again, this calls for hearsay, and I ask that my objection precede the question and answer.
I don't think the question asked for hearsay. Your objection's overruled.
Was Jason Carter in 2015 aware what was in your will?
Yes.
How was he aware what was in your will?
When Shirley and I changed the will, we showed Jason and Shelley what we had done. We showed them the will.
And when you say Shelley, who is Shelley?
Shelley is Jason's wife.
Did Jason play any role in the administration of your will?
He was appointed the executor.
Bill, if both you and Shirley had died on June 19, 2015, what would have Jason Carter inherited?
He would have gotten the farm, which was worth $3.5 to $4 million, and another $800,000 at least in cash assets.
And is that because Jason got a third of the cash assets?
That's correct.
And did he also, would we have to split up the value of your equipment?
Yes, which would have been much more.
So when you take, how much money in savings did you folks have in June of 2015?
We had right at $500,000.
Did you also have money in IRAs and CDs?
Yes, we did.
How much money did you have in farm equipment?
Close to $1 million.
Bill, did you know how much land Jason was farming on June 19, 2015?
Approximately, yes. Pretty close.
How do you know how much land he was farming?
Well, I knew what the Mcdonald place, I knew the acreage on it, and Ginger's, that's his Shelley's stepmother. I knew that there was about, I was pretty close on that. I assumed somewhere around 900 that he rented and 900 that he custom farmed. And then the other farms I rented at one time. So I knew the acres on those farms.
So there was his mother-in-law's ground that he farmed.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yeah, yes, I'm sorry.
And then there were the farms that you went to your landlords and turned over.
Yes,
And then you mentioned the Mcdonald farmland.
yes.
Did you help Jason farm these lands even after they were his operation?
Yes, I helped him in the spring and I helped him in the fall. When we got done we usually were done long before Jason, harvesting, and the same way with planting. I would get done, and then I would take my planter and go down and help him.
Bill, who were the farms you had turned over for Jason to be able to rent?
Doyle Schrader's farm, Nancy Woodard's farm, Jimmy Friday's farm, Gene Heberlin's farm, and Bob Bain's farm.
Bill, approximately, how many acres was Nancy Woodard's farm?
About 60 acres of row crop.
What about the Heberlin farm?
A little over 200.
What about the Schrader farm?
About 60 acres of row crop.
And the Bain farm?
A little over 200.
And the Friday farm?
About 40 acres.
Now, you mentioned someone by the name of Mcdonald. Did you ever have a relationship with Mabel McDonald, meaning you rented her land?
No.
How many acres of tillable ground was there on Mrs. McDonald's land?
That's hard for me to say because the Sheraton farm was rough, and there was a lot of that in hay, alfalfa. And I put the alfalfa up for Mabel and Jason, and I mowed it, raked it, baled it, and then I made sure she got paid for half, and then I did the work for half. But as far as row crop, I would have to guess that there was somewhere around 200 to 250 acres of row crop.
And then was there additional hay ground?
And then she had other farms up close to Attica.
So when you talk about the 200 acres, you're just simply talking about the Sheraton
The
farm.
Sheraton farm.
And did Jason rent multiple farms from Mrs. McDonald?
Yes.
Now, you mentioned Ginger Harry, Jason's mother-in-law's property. How many? You mentioned earlier, let me phrase it this way, something about there was half the 900 was cash renting and half the 900 was custom farming. What does that mean?
Well, he cash rented half of her ground. And I'm not sure whether it's 600 acres per that he rented or whether it was 900 acres that he rented. And then he custom farmed either 900 acres or rented, or custom farmed 600 acres. Custom farming means she paid him to plant it, to do all the processes that need to be done to harvest it, and she got the crop. Now, when he cash rented the ground, he got the crop and took it out.
So custom farming is you're just a hired hand.
Well, custom farming is somewhat like that, yes. You do the work with your equipment, and you get paid for either the entire putting the crop in and taking it out, or on an individual basis. Like if you plant it, you get paid for that. If you spray it, you get paid for that. If you harvest it, you would get paid for that.
Bill, when Did something happen to Mabel McDonald in 2014 that you became aware of?
Yes, Mabel died.
And where did her land go?
Went to Mike Mcdonald and the daughter, and I don't know her name.
In 2015, did you start to have concerns that Jason was going to struggle to pay off his farming debts?
Yes, I did.
Did you have an opportunity to examine, and how did you reach that conclusion without going into great specifics?
Commodity markets had dropped. And our expenses stayed the same. Seed corn, fertilizer, chemicals stayed the same. So it's just was bound to happen to all farmers. I mean, it was, especially if you were renting a lot of ground.
What did you think he was going to have to, how much was he going to come up short?
I assume somewhere between 100 and 150,000.
Had you, in years past, bailed him out before?
Once.
Bill, I now want to talk about June 18th, 2015. Was Jason and Shirley and their children at your home the night before?
Yes.
Or let me rephrase that. On June 18th in the evening, were Shirley, Jason, and their children at your home?
Yes.
Did Jason ask you what you were going to be doing the next day?
Yes.
Was that unusual?
No. They'd been there for 6 nights in a row. So every night it was not unusual for him to ask me what my plans were for the next day.
Were you able to tell Jason what you were going to be doing the next day?
Yes.
What did you tell him you were going to be doing the next day?
I told him I had a load of corn loaded, ready to go to Eddyville, to Cargill, and I was going to take that load down. And then when I got back, I had hay down. I had 30 acres of alfalfa hay down that I was going to rake and bale that afternoon.
Okay, so when you use the term hay down, what does that mean?
That means I had mowed it 2 days earlier with a mower conditioner.
And then do you have to let it dry?
You let it dry, and then you rake it. And you rake it preferably when it's about ready to bale, dry. And then you bale it. And Shirley would rake, and I would bale.
Are those two different pieces of farm equipment, the rake and the
Baler?
baler?
Yes.
So did you own that equipment?
Yes.
Would Jason have been able to use that equipment if he had wanted to?
Yes.
Was there any real reason Jason needed to be spending money on a rake and baler?
I couldn't see the reason for it, but he liked to be independent.
He liked to own his own equipment?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Did you, other than knowing you were going to Eddyville that morning and then gonna put up hay in the afternoon, did you know the specifics of what time you would be where and when?
Well, You don't know exactly, but I had hoped to get to Eddyville, to the Cargill plant, at 9 a.m. If you get there at 9 a.m., you miss the co-op trucks on their second run. They've already been there before that, and they're reloading, getting ready to come back. And 9 a.m. was a good time to get there. And that's why I wanted to be there at that time.
Bill, did you know you were going to reload your semi on June 19, 2015?
No, I did not.
What was it based on?
I pulled in at 9:01, pulled right under the probe, no trucks ahead of me. And then I had dry corn on. And dry corn means you go to the dry dump where they want the dry corn unloaded. And there was nobody on the dry dump. I just drove right on and unloaded. So I got through there so much quicker and easier than I thought I would. And then I headed out the west gate to go home on Highway 5.
And we'll come back to that in a second, Bill. I want to talk about Friday, June 19, 2015. Do you have any idea what time you got up that morning?
Yeah, Shirley always got me up about 6:30.
And what happens in the house what happened in your household?
She always had breakfast for me, and we would eat and talk about our plans for the day. And then on the 18th, she said, no, it wasn't, it was the 18th too. She wanted to go get coffee at Milo.
Okay. Why would you guys go get coffee at Milo?
I had to drink decaf, and she did not like decaf. She wanted the real stuff. And so we would drive over to Milo, which was 6-7 mile, and she would go in and get her regular coffee and get me a cup of decaf. And it was just a thing we did about every day, just about every day.
Is that what happened on June 19, 2015?
Yes. She asked me if I had time that day because she knew I wanted to leave at 9 or leave at 8. And I said, yeah, we can run over there. And we did.
Bill, did you meet anyone at Cargill on June 19, 2015? I'm sorry, at Casey's, did you run into anyone?
At Casey's we did. Shirley run into Donnie Hunter-Dose. He's a neighbor and a farmer in that area. And he was running for the corn board, the Iowa corn board. And he had sent us a ballot asking me to fill out the ballot for him. And he followed Shirley out. He carried the coffee. And she got in the pickup and he leaned in and he said, Bill, I hope it's okay that I sent you a ballot to vote for me for the Iowa Corn Board. And I said, no, that's fine. And Shirley said, I will fill it out when I get home. She told Donnie she would fill it out when she got home. And she did. She filled the ballot out. And then to save stamps, she seen an 800 number or a number she could call for free. and she called them instead.
And is that the number we saw and we talked about earlier this morning?
Yeah,
Would that be like Shirley, make the phone call instead of spending the money on the stamp?
yeah, it sure would.
Bill, were the two of you spenders or savers?
We were savers.
Mr. Bull, perhaps this would be a convenient time to take a morning recess.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our morning recess. Please remember the admonition I have given you before. Keep an open mind. Don't discuss the case among yourselves or with anyone. We'll see you back in about 15 minutes.